think we're all set. Okay, so I'll just start off with introductions. Thank you to everyone who's joined us. So whether you're on YouTube or Zoom, etc., thank you so much for joining. Thank you to clients and friends of clients and LinkedIn family. Thank you so much for your time. Now, my name is Beryle, for those who don't know me, and I am the founder and MD of AngledNorth Limited. And at AngledNorth, we focus on helping current and aspiring leaders to advance their career through what we call personal branding services. And so our services are good for those who are looking to start their entrepreneurial journey, or those who are looking to get promoted, or those who are looking for new careers. So today you're joining us for a session called After Hours. And at After Hours, what we do is we interview leaders and we understand their career journeys, their business journeys, and just learn from them. And it's a very easy space. Feel free to share your comments, feel free to chat us up, feel free to share your questions as well. And it's interactive, basically. And so what we do at After Hours is we give you a chance to pick back. So all those questions you have running in your mind about career, about business, about growing, advancing, all those things, we're able to answer them here. Today, I'm very privileged to host William Mukaria. He's the Managing Director of Educate Rwanda, and he's also the Kenya Country Operations Lead. Now, William has extensive experience and growth in retail and distribution, e-commerce, and the NGO sector and renewable energy. Let's just say William has been in a number of industries and sectors, very exciting ones at such, and across sub-Saharan Africa. And he's worked for, organizations of varied sizes, startups, multi-site organizations, huge organizations, or multi-million-dollar organizations. And so he has a breadth of experience in many environments. He also is very passionate about business development and leadership and just building teams, especially within high growth environments. He's worked as a COO previously. He's also worked as a head of retail or operations. And he's also run his own business. And he's worked in companies like T-Mart, which is a wholesaler in Nigeria. He's worked at Copia, which we would know here in Kenya. And he's worked at Seychelles Trading Company, among others. So William is the author of the book, The Big Leap, which is this book here, which we'll touch into in a bit during the session. And A Big Leap it's sort of a personal memoir. It's a very interesting read. It has it's written in a personable style with lots of stories and lots of different experiences woven into the technical leadership a bit, of course. And he shares that, across his experiences in business and career. In this talk, we'll be sharing some of those stories. We'll be sharing some of his experience from other aspects of his career. And he will also be letting us know what he has learned through them. Some of the things I know that you reached out to me and mentioned that you'd like to understand more about is, making a career change or industry change. It's about starting a business and work-life balance and things like that. And so he's here today. He's been very generous to share his time with us. And so I would like you to join me in welcoming William Mukaria. So welcome, William.
Thank you very much, Beryle, and thank you, our viewers. This is really very exciting to be able to participate in this conversation. So we are just starting, so I'm really excited to join this conversation and of course, share stories across. So thank you so much for this invitation.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's start off with your book, The Big Leap. What inspired you to write The Big Leap?
Very interesting question. People keep asking me that question all the time. So what inspired me basically is I'm always that guy who learns by sharing ideas. And learning means that whenever I'm sharing whether it's an article I'm writing on LinkedIn or on Medium or on Facebook, there's always something that I learn from my own writing. That could sound interesting, but I always learn. And also just putting all the experiences that I've had doing business and working in different organizations, working in different markets in Africa, doing my own businesses, and some succeeding, others failing. I just thought, like, why don't I consolidate all these thoughts into a book and share them in one piece? You know, I have all these ideas and all these articles spread everywhere, which is basically sharing what I know and what I've experienced in doing all this. But then I thought, why don't I just put this together in a book and just share this book so that other people can read? And that started me off to a journey of like 2.5 years, putting this book together. It just like, it didn't sound like I would be able, but I think I had some few of my friends who are really encouraging, and they'll send me messages like, "Hey, see, William, you know the articles you write, you know, great articles. You know those articles is all that you need. You know, you are a writer naturally, so you just need to do this. You can do it." And I said, "Yes, William, you can do this thing." And that's how this book was born. Generally, you know, out of the desire to just share what I know and my experiences to the people out there and putting my thoughts together in one piece.
Yeah. But 2.5 years, that sounds daunting. Did you ever feel like, oh my gosh, will this ever come to fruition? Or I'm going to be doing this forever, writing manuscript after manuscript?
Yeah, so actually it sounded like eternity, because you know, when you're doing some of these things, sometimes you do it and then at some point you feel like, oh, I need to shift my energies and attention to other things. So you put a full stop. But it came a point when I said, like, I need to set targets for myself. So I set a target of how many words do I need to write in a week, all right? And then kind of trying to figure out how many words do I need to write in a day, all right? So there are days when I couldn't meet my target of how many words actually do I need to put across, to write down. But then, I always endeavor, like every Saturday, I'm sitting back and reviewing. Like William, you had a target of 5,000 words this week. How far have you gone? So I think that really helped me a lot to track myself and be able to put everything together. But if it wasn't like that, I think it could potentially have taken longer than I thought. And maybe even now I could be having some unfinished work somewhere on my desk waiting for me to finish that. So I think that target is really what helped me eventually really gain that traction and put things together on time. But it was quite a job, I would say.
Yeah. I can imagine writing a book is no mean feat. You know, it does take quite a bit. Okay, so we'll just we'll put a bookmark there, and then we'll come back to that. So tell me let's talk about your career. Let's start there. What was your first job that you remember?
Awesome. The first job. So I would give it, I would say 2 jobs. So there's a job that I got before, actually I got another job. And that job was when I finished Form 4, way back in the years. You know, that is the time when you used to wait for like 2 years before you join university. So I was at home, and my dad does construction stuff and all that. He takes contracts for building people's houses. And then when I was out of Form 4, he told me, why don't you just come along with me? I make you kanda ya moko mtu wa mkono, and then I pay you some money each day. All right. And then of course now his intention was also for me to gain skills. So I would say that was my first job to be paid some money. I'd work with my dad, you know, doing all the construction, and I gained considerable skills, because I remember after like 1 year, the smaller projects, like for example, that requires more like carpentry or roofing, smaller houses, you just leave that to me and say, okay, that's smaller, you can manage that one.
You'd do a whole roof.
I'll do that, exactly. I'll do truss, I'll do so the only piece that I'll call somebody to help me is where, because now for iron sheets you need like people to help you load them on top. But in terms of kind of trying to figure out how much materials do you need, how do you actually like taking all the measurements and putting things together, the frames, I'll do all that. So I would say that was my very first job, which of course I'm very happy about. I always brag to my friends whenever they call me to help me do this or that. Because constructing things like, for example, a chicken house or those household things, I don't struggle with those kind of things. I have a whole set of tools here with me whenever those kind of works come. So that was my very first job. But then after leaving college, my very first job was teaching in a college in town. And that is the time when I was, we were required at the end of college to do kind of an internship, what do we call it? Industrial attachment, which was part of the college requirements for you to graduate. So we had 3 months to go out there, hustle in this big city and get something to do. And then after you've done that for a couple of weeks or maybe a month, then your lecturer will come and assess what you're doing and give you marks or something like that, an assessment. So when I stepped out, I was trained to be a journalist initially before I veered off and started doing other things. So I was really moving from media houses, attending interviews at Nationals, moving to I&M where Standard Group was then. I was really moving along all these media houses looking for an attachment. But it took a longer period of time, and I thought, hey, these 3 months window that we were given for an attachment might actually expire before I'm able to secure a space for me to work and show something like I've done some work. So what I did, I just walked into a media college. It was called Smart Media Institute then. It was owned by Gathoni Wamushomba, who is now my friend and the women rep for Kiambu County. So I just walked in the college, and because it has something to do with media, and I said, okay, why don't I just get in here and ask for a job to teach and see whether it works. And when I walked in, I met the principal then, and the principal told me, okay, actually we have a slot. Are you able to report tomorrow? I said, yeah, of course, I'm able to report tomorrow. So I started that job teaching some media courses to students at Smart Media College, and that was my very first job, and earning a decent 8,000 Kenya shillings. 8 and 30.
Hey, we are rich. My first job was only 3,000 bob, and I was a manager.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I really like that your dad also shared those skills with you. I think, I don't know what your thoughts are, William, but I feel nowadays we forget, we want our children to learn all of these hard skills to get into the corporate world, but some of these even just general life skills, soft skills, they don't have. It's not even uncommon to hear, I don't know how to cook. I can't cook for myself. I have to buy my food. I don't know how to sew a button. Yeah. What are your thoughts on things like that?
Yeah, I think generally life skills are very important. And I think by virtue of how personally I was brought up, I was able to learn those things by default. So I think those three things really helps you a lot. Even at workplace, what most people don't realize is that sometimes really what matters a lot above your technical skills is actually your soft skills. How are you able to communicate? How are you able to relate with the people? Most organizations like Educate, for example, which I'm sure I'll introduce what we do at some point, we are very specific on the cultural fit. We are looking at very specific innate skill traits, which is very personal on whether who this person is this person likely to integrate well with the organization. Those kind of things really, they matter a lot. And as you move higher in the leadership, ranks, you realize that the softer skills becomes very, very important, because
So
then
true.
you move from a point where kind of you're sitting on a desk and you're managing papers, or you're doing this, to where now you're managing people. And managing people is a lot more complex, because like accountants, for example, when you're an accountant, you can command the QuickBooks to behave the way you want them to behave. You can feed them with the numbers and they'll respond exactly the way you want them to respond. But with the people, people think back, people respond back, people react back. So you really have to be a skilled manager for you to manage people. It's a lot. It's another level of management altogether, which requires a lot of softer skills for you really to be able to master how to manage people from different backgrounds, orientation, and so on and so forth. And you get them on a course and goals where the organization is headed. So I would say those soft skills, they help a lot, but also they make your life easier. I mean, how would you manage if you don't know how to shine your shoes and you've been called for an interview, or you don't know how to iron your shirt and maybe you're living in a small room and you've just graduated? How do you do that? Will you just go to like a neighbor and ask your neighbor to do that for you? Of course, it will make your life much harder. So I think those soft skills, they really help you a lot in managing your own life and ensuring that you're living an easy life as well. So very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Yeah, it's just things that as parents, we just have to be conscientious of, how will our children learn to be independent in their homes, not just in the corporate world and making money, and really unable to have a quality of life by themselves that you would want them to have. Okay, so let's start with your career journey. So you've moved from smart media, you're out of college. So what's your next job?
So I worked with the smart media as a tutor for a couple of months, and then the principal left. And then Gadoni came and said, I think, William, you can do this thing, so you'll be the principal of the school. So that was like after 6 months. Wow. And yeah, I was the principal of the school. I was very happy that now I'm in charge of things. I think that was also very exciting at that particular moment. I mean, when you get into that level of responsibility, months after leaving college, you're really excited because, I mean, you just feel like I'm in charge. So, and it gives you an opportunity also to build your skills and all that. But I didn't stay for long. I was still searching for something. So I just sent, the way you used to send random applications. Then we didn't know a lot, like that was like 2010. Actually, it's not too far back, but yeah, there wasn't a lot of emails and sending applications on emails. In fact, there wasn't much opportunities available online. And most of these roles were being advertised on either newspapers or they were just there, and kind of we had to send like blind applications. So I sent many applications, and then I just got an opportunity to join Uchumi Supermarkets then. Uchumi Supermarkets had just been placed under receivership at that time. And they were recruiting younger people, fresh graduates, guys they could train through the system on how to manage retail businesses, so that now these people can take over leadership of the business, like running branches and all that, and operations. So that's how I landed Uchumi Supermarkets as a management trainee. Really loved that season, joining Uchumi, because one, it just ushered me into a career that really I love a lot. The retail, which I think I've been in retail most of the years. We went through a management training program for 1 whole year. And the management training program was basically to take us through, like, what is retail? How does retail function? How do you manage inventory? How do you manage customer service? How do you manage your sales, your revenue? your profitability, how do you manage people? So a lot of things around retail operations. And I mean, that's the training we went through. I remember we were 13 of us, 13 guys, and we were a mix of people from different guys who had done different things. And that showed me that really sometimes it's not really what you learned in college. Like university just gives you a platform to do greater things ahead. Because I had people who had done fisheries, agroforestry, tourism, geology, journalists like myself, teachers. We had all manner of people, all of them put in a room, and we are told, like, you see, you guys, we feel like you can be retailers, you know. Quite interesting. So yeah, I joined Uchumi.
Because Uchumi was in receivership. That wasn't daunting to you that you're joining a company that was going through some sort of distress?
No, it wasn't. At that time, when at the point where I was, and I think maybe other people, the team that I joined with, we really wanted to join an organization with a name that is known, you know. And also because we knew that the government was very determined, because that's the time when Jonathan Shiano had been hired to steer the big elephant from the red to the green zone. So I was partly confident that we were moving in the right direction. And the fact that the organization felt that we need young people to train so that in the coming months or in the coming years, they can take over leadership, it gives me a lot of confidence. And I mean, in my young mind, I didn't even think about that. For me, I just wanted an organization that is paying me a little bit more money and has a
well known. Okay.
Yes. So I moved through the training. We finished the training. I worked in a number of branches, you know, shadowing the managers, a kind of an assistant manager, just learning also the on-the-job training things. So I worked like in all Nairobi branches. And then in the early 2010, I got promoted, which was kind of a surprise because I didn't consider myself the most brilliant guy of all other people. So it was kind of a surprise that I've been promoted. Like I was the second guy to be promoted. So yes, when I was promoted, was taken to Kericho. We were just opening our new branch in Kericho. So a team was put together to go to Kericho. Yeah, and we just packed and went and opened a new branch there, and we thrived. That was in January 2010. I left Uchumi in November 2010, the end of that year. And I remember we had actually moved from, you know, that point where we are trying to build up our sales and show actually why we are a business, and we got to the level where we could actually report profits. And I remember that time actually was very critical to me, because I remember when we were being commissioned at the head office, I remember our CEO Jonathan came and told me that, you see, William, we are giving you a branch. We are putting a very good team for you, but I'm just giving you 1 year. If 1 year elapses, 12 months, and you haven't made any money, because that is the profit center, I'll pack you and your people home, and I'll close the branch. So when I was going there, I was going that in mind. And I remember 4 months into the branch, after opening the branch, the sales were not coming up as quickly as I would have expected. And I remembered what Jonathan had said. So I started panicking, and I said, you know, William, what I'll do, I'll just go and talk to my direct supervisor, who was the general manager operations then. Because in my mind, I thought, like, if Jonathan actually will sack us at the end of the year, I think my boss has to approve that. So I need to talk to my boss about my fears and my worries. And I remember when I talked to Owino, who was my boss then, actually I've narrated that small story in my book. He really laughed, because he thought, like, you know, why are you panicking? You're still so young. The business is so young. You still have a long way to go. Just do your thing. Do the best thing you can. And he just gave me the stories of how you opened our branch in Gong Road, our Sariti branch. And when he told me the numbers that they were making the first year, I really laughed because it did look like those branches could make those small numbers. Like I was beating them in my sales, and those were mega branches. So I relaxed, and yeah, by towards the end of the year, we were in a very good position as a business. And then I left Uchumi.
Okay, all right. So let me just say hi. There are some people saying hello from YouTube, Bella, Murad, Daisy, Christine. Very nice to have you guys. Thank you so much. Please share in the chat your questions or your comments for William as we proceed. Same as guys on Zoom, please feel free to share your questions and comments as well so that we can tackle those as we go along. Okay, so now, William, from Uchumi, where do you go next?
So what happened, Beryle, at that time, I had applied for another job, just the way you see an advert on the newspaper and you just apply for a job. So there's a company in the Seychelles Republic. Seychelles is an island country somewhere in the middle of East Indian Ocean. It's a 3-hour flight from Nairobi. So they wanted to recruit some Kenyans to help them run their business. It's a very large organization with different businesses. So I just applied the job, and then after some time, I got called for the interview by one of the recruiters locally. I attended the first interview and the second interview, and then I went back to my business. And then, like after a month, I received another call telling me, like, "Hey, William, you've done very well in the last 2 interviews, and the director, the CEO now of the company, and the HR director, they're in Nairobi, and they would like to meet you for another interview." I said, "Wow, yeah, that's great. I'm happy." So I met them in a hotel in Nairobi, and I did the interview, and I was selected to be their retail manager for one of their businesses. Now, this company is called Seychelles Trading Company. Is the largest, I think I would say, conglomerate in the Seychelles Republic, with many businesses across duty-free, retail, manufacturing, distribution, cold chain. So they have really large businesses. So I was the guy who was now in charge of retail. There are 3 retail businesses, like 3 outlets in 3 different islands. So that's how I landed in the Seychelles Republic. Again, I was a bit like, how did I land here? Because truly, I didn't know how that went. And I think sometimes it's good to trust yourself, what you can do. Because I was really young then. I mean, I had just worked for like 3 years. And how I've landed in a foreign country, it was kind of a miracle, I would say. So, but there I was. We had a responsibility to turn around the business. I had an opportunity to interact with a different culture, different people, different ways of working. Beautiful country. Also, I had a chance also to enjoy their nice white beaches. It was an all-round life, and I loved it for the 2 years that I was there. Yeah, so that's how I joined the Seychelles Trading Company. And it was a very nice experience working there, I would say. Just that exposure, working with in a different environment, people with different work ethic, people with different culture, which by the way is very different from our culture in Kenya. Even the way we work is totally different. So it was really a great experience being there. So that's how I landed in the Seychelles. I worked there up until 2012. Then I just got tired. I came back home.
Oh, got tired of the islands.
Yeah, I just thought I need to be back home. I was really homesick.
Okay.
And I was I didn't want to disturb them anymore, because I was always talking to my CEO and saying, "Oh, you need to give me air tickets because I'm stressed up. I want to go and see my family. I have a girlfriend I want to go and see." So I think but also within that particular period of time, we had done quite a lot in terms of fixing the business. And I thought that, I think pretty much I've done my part. And 2012, middle of 2012, I took off and I landed in Nairobi again.
Okay, yes. Then what did you do then?
After I came, I didn't have a job. I stayed for like a month. And then after a month, I joined Copia, Kenya. So Copia, Kenya was just setting up at that time. And they were recruiting, the CEO was recruiting the first team, the first batch of managers. So I met him, a very brilliant young man. It was called Crispin. And then I got an opportunity to join Copia as operations manager. We were the very first team to set up Copia, actually. We were the four of us in a desk, including our CEO. So I joined Copia Kenya as the operations manager, and my job basically was to help business figure out a number of things. One, the way Copia operates, Copia works with agents. So my job was basically to steer the recruitment of agents, to figure out the kind of technology that the business needs to use. And that would be both the back end, how we want to manage our inventory and how we want to manage our payments. How do we want to manage our customer database? So all those kind of things, to sit back and figure out. And I remember I was forever at iHub talking, having discussions with developers there, trying to figure out what is it that we need. In my head, I don't know coding or anything like that. But I know what our business needs, all right? So they know coding, I don't know, but I know what our business needs. So the conversation was about, this is exactly what you want to do. So what technology exists, or can we do this so that we can integrate this and this, we can integrate back our back end system with the M-Pesa, we can have tracking metrics for our customers and payments and stuff. So that's the kind of thing I was doing with Copia Kenya, just trying to help them think through some of those things. And because it was a startup, of course, you become everything. So you are the guy who is bringing petty cash and spending money to people who are doing deliveries. You are the guy who is going out there to do shopping, for customer orders and all that. Sometimes when our teams are busy, I'm also with our prop box doing deliveries. Sometimes you use Smart to take stuff to Muranga. So I mean, we did all those kind of things with Copia, and I'm glad now they are really up there. They've really ramped up their operations with thousands of agents and all those kind of things.
Yeah, they've really grown.
Yeah, they've really grown. So it was a great thing, very challenging, but yeah, I think we did what we did, which was to the best interest of the business. And it was really, really amazing, just being there doing the hard stuff. Then in 2013, I didn't stay with Copia for long because I really wanted to start something with one of my colleagues. So we founded an organization, which is a retail consultancy company called Retail Insight Africa. And our vision for the business was to help those people who want to set up like distributors. They really want to have visibility on how their products are doing in the market, or distributors, guys who are manufacturing probably from Middle East, Dubai, and they want to set up business in Kenya, or they want to find ways of bringing their products to the market. So we were kind of those people who helps them do that. Yeah. We started well. We ran for quite some time, but then we ran out of money.
Okay.
And and I told my co-founder, I think this thing where it is right now, I just need to go elsewhere and look for money so that we see how we can survive together, because we need to eat, we need to pay rent, we need to, we need to sustain the business. And right now, we were very ambitious. The checks didn't come as quickly as we were
anticipated. Yeah.
So I just left, and then now at that time I started conversations with one of the a Nigerian director. They were setting up a business in in Lagos. And the way that happened, when I was seated in our small office in Westlands, one of the recruiters, you know, these recruiting companies, a friend of mine that I interacted with earlier, he just called me and told me, hey, William, how are you doing? Are you around? Yes. There's an opportunity in Lagos. Would you like, would this interest you? I'm like, okay, Lagos? Which Lagos? So I'm asking like, which Lagos? Is it Lagos in Nigeria? Okay, yeah. So I told him, okay, let me think about that. So I took like 3 days, just thinking like, do I really want to go to Lagos? Because you see, when you're coming from Kenya, there's so many stories that you've heard from Lagos, from Nigeria, that really were saying like, do I want to go to Lagos really?
I know.
Is that the place I want to be? But yeah, eventually I got to meet one of the directors here in Nairobi. Also a very young man, very nice. He wasn't very loud. He was not swearing or anything like that. Very nice. We talked. And the reason why they were looking, so the kind of business they were setting in Lagos was, it was a wholesale business, but a larger format wholesale business. We have similar businesses in US and in Europe. Their business model, like Costco model, where it's a wholesale membership club. It's like a supermarket. You can think about, let's say Carrefour, for example, the way you walk in, but it's a wholesale store, right? And this is a membership, you know, kind of, you don't admit regular customers like walk in, only members. So it's a membership business. So you pay some annual subscription, and then out of the annual subscription that you pay, the membership, you are able to enjoy other benefits like good prices and deliveries and those kind of things. So that's exactly the same model that we wanted to replicate in Nigeria and see how Nigerians will look like. So yeah, this business, the directors were looking for somebody from Kenya, because apparently Kenya, in terms of retail, we are much more developed than any other countries. I think we are second after South Africa. And they really wanted somebody from Kenya to be part of the team in Lagos. So I met them. I met their board in Lagos. I just went there just to meet them. I came back again, stayed for another 2 months, and then I just decided like, these people, the way they've treated me, they've put me in a very nice hotel in Lagos for a couple of days, for almost a week. They've chauffeured me around. They really look like good people. Let me try it, you know? And that's how actually I got into Lagos in 2015. Then in Lagos, again, it was a startup putting things together. Of course, me being a Kenyan, getting acclimatized to the Nigerian culture, which again is different. Trying to understand people, how do people talk? I learned a few things, like, for example, Nigerians are very open people. Kenyans, we are not very open. You get into a mat and you just sit quietly. You sit quietly. You don't even say hi to your neighbor. That's not Nigerians, right? So you get into a mat and the guy is sitting next to you. He start talking to you and telling stories about, you know, they had a fight with the wife in the evening. He's been sacked. You tell all those, and kind of you are asking like, what do I tell this guy now? You know, he's so honest with me. I really don't want to let him down.
And you're like, wow, the weather is nice.
I just want like, yeah, I really want to kind of, reciprocate, either, sympathize with him, tell him maybe to be okay, something, or maybe tell him your story. And then also I was so used to, like, when I speak, my accent will always betray me, and the people ask, oh, are you from South Africa? Or are you from Senegal? Or, and I really wanted to avoid those questions where you speak and then people start asking you like, oh, are you a Nigerian? Like, where are you from? So I really didn't want that. But yeah, so those are the things to kind of acclimatize with the environment. But overall, we did a good job there. We set up our mega store in Lagos, and started preps for another store in Abuja. But things didn't work out for me, and I had again to leave, come back to my beautiful country.
We'll come back to that.
Yes, we'll come back to that.
And so what do you do next?
So what will happen after that is that just taking you a little bit back, when I was joining Lagos, that time I had another opportunity for an interview for a managing director role. No, not a managing director. It was a general manager role for Solar Kiosk, which is or was the last mile energy retailer in Kenya, and we had operations across other East African countries. So when they reached out to me at that time for a general manager, I told them, hey, I've just picked a role in Lagos, so I'm not available, right? But when things didn't work out in Lagos, for some reasons, I think probably I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I just I took time, I wrote an email to one of the directors of Solar Kiosk, and I told her, hey, we spoke about a role with Solar Kiosk before, like 2 years ago. By that time I was going to Lagos, but now I'm coming back to Nairobi. Is there an opportunity for me? And then interestingly, she wrote back and she said, in fact, that time we never got somebody. So they had to fly somebody from Berlin, because Solar Kiosk was a German company. So they flew one of the ladies who later became my boss to come and manage the Kenya operations at that time. So when I was reaching out to them, they were actually trying to figure out how do we now get somebody now so that she can go back to her work. So in fact, this happened very quickly. I just within that particular period, I was still in Lagos. They sent me an air ticket. I came back. I did an interview. I went back, and then we agreed. So the moment when I was coming to Kenya back eventually, I joined them like a week later. And that's how my journey as the managing director for Solar Kiosk started.
And where else from Solar Kiosk, since you've had a number of roles?
So Solar Kiosk was, we did a good job because we really had high targets to achieve. We were operating rural kiosks, like rural retail outlets for solar products. And that time we had received a lot of funding from our investors. We had grants. We had really like a ton of money to do expansion. So we moved. My immediate job was to move to expand our operations from what I think was 19 outlets there then, and we moved within 2 years. We moved to around 70 outlets in different counties in this beautiful country.
Wow.
And then for some reason, Solar Kiosk was changing hands, so I left. They wanted to do other things and so on and so forth, so I left. And then we started another startup organization called Lee and Mouse Consulting. I was one of the co-founders. We were 3 co-founders. And this business basically was to enable organizations really tap into remote workforce. And at that time, we didn't know that COVID would come and kind of working remotely would become a norm. But really, we wanted those organizations that feels like we don't want to hire permanent staff. We want people to come work with us for 3 months or 2 months or whatever. So we wanted to give them that opportunity to do that. Yeah. And that's how we started Lee and Mouse Consulting, just to offer those kind of services. But COVID came, so many of our clients canceled contracts, and it was not sustainable anymore, because really we didn't have any money to, we were depending on our receivables for this month to pay our operations for next month. So we really, when we got these cancellations, we didn't have a chance to kind of stay several months without income. Yeah, so we closed down. And then I just stayed around doing other things, doing part-time consultancy assignments. And then after that, I just joined Educate Kenya, or Educate generally, a year ago. So Educate Kenya, Educate Rwanda, 2 countries that are managing. What we do is that we are into youth programs, so post-secondary youth. So what we do is to skill those youth with those skills that we believe are necessary for them to either proceed with their career, make them more, make it easier for them to get jobs, or to skill them with entrepreneurial skills for them to start their own businesses. So the way it works is that we believe right now, because opportunities are much more scarce, so we have so many people, young people who does not have jobs, all right? And they haven't figured out what to do in order to be useful to their communities or to earn income for themselves and all that. Also, on top of that, we also know that there are people, there are so many of our youth who drop out of school, all right? And therefore, they really don't have a chance in a formal job market. So what do? They are just hustling, and probably really they haven't found anything useful to do to support themselves, to support their families, to support their communities. So what we are doing now is to scale this youth so that they are able to gain those skills that enables them to start jobs, or even better, to be able to secure jobs. And that's what we are doing with Educate. So Educate, I'm the managing director for Kenya and Rwanda. Our teams are working largely remotely right now because of COVID, of course. Yeah, and we are looking at opportunities now to innovate around COVID, adapt to the ways of working right now, and see potentially how we can blend with like going into the field and having in-person interactions once COVID risk is out of the way. So that's where I am right now, Beryle. Yeah, thank you.
Quite a story, my goodness. Yes. Okay, so let's actually start there at Educate. I mean, from the best of my knowledge, this is a very new area that you'll be working in. How did you convince them? What do you think? What do you think was the story? Was a part of the story where they said, "Oh my gosh, William, we must have him,"
okay.
Even though he doesn't come from the typical social development sector? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's really a good question. I think I should ask them that. But yeah, I think they really needed somebody who has a bit of for-profit, and especially somebody who is strong in operations, to come and kind of give strength to that particular area. So I think that primarily is what they were looking for, because the teams, so it's an NGO, and they really wanted somebody who has a bit of exposure outside of NGO, which probably is why I found my way at Educate, which is my first proper NGO to work with, also for myself, which is a steep learning curve.
Yeah. And you came in as MD, so I can only imagine.
Yes. So I mean, and the MD, basically the role is to, so I look at my role like three parts. So one is really coaching teams, and ensuring that our teams are at their best, And the second one is around operations. So, and operations will involve finance, will involve budgeting, ensuring financial prudence, how we manage our finances, how we manage our budgets, human resource, and also operations. And the third part now is the programs, which I would say, I think the part about operations and finance and HR and whatever, so those ones I'm perfectly okay, because those are really not new things to me. But programs, I'm coming from an environment where you're just being asked questions around your revenue, your profitability, your bottom line. Those are the languages we speak on the other side, where we are working with the for-profit businesses. So we are looking at those numbers more particularly. But then when we come to NGOs and NGO or social enterprises or social sector, the main thing is impact. So impact is our revenue. Impact is our bottom line. So, and that is what we are driving at. But before we even talk about impact. There are other things that really drives impact, and that is really trying to see how do we manage the resources that we have to drive programs that gives us or delivers the kind of impact that we want. And I think that's what I do every single day.
How did you get this job at Educate?
Wow. Yeah. So I had applied through LinkedIn. There was a vacancy. I had applied, and then I went through like a series of interviews like months, those interviews that goes through. I remember I did like 7 interviews in all, plus plus a number of presentations. So I just got that, and then the moment I applied on LinkedIn, I think I got a feedback like, sorry, this is not your opportunity or something like that. Would like to proceed with the other candidates. And then after a month or two, I just sent a message again to one of the recruiting managers. And I told her, hey, my name is William. We spoke some 2 months ago. Please let me know when there's an opportunity. And then she told me that, you see, that role that you had applied, I think we have restarted it again. So actually, we'll consider you now for the next round of interviews. And then that's how it rolled. But the origin was actually LinkedIn, where I got that opportunity. And we started those conversations.
So William, the first thing I have learned about you today is that you don't think about no as a final answer.
Absolutely not. I think I always leave room for those conversations. Actually, I think really I don't. I always want to move ahead. I really want to have those after conversations. Those after conversations. The way you have some a coffee with somebody, and then later on you are chatting. That kind of thing. So that's how I got here, and we are doing amazing things at Educate just to ensure that we are scaling these youth so that they can do something useful in their communities. And when we do that, we not only give them skills to pursue their careers or to start their businesses, we also set them aside so that they don't fall into the risk that youth fall when they don't have jobs. And that's like drug abuse, crime, and all that. So amazing work with Educate.
Yeah, it's very noble work. Okay, so now you've had so many roles. Which one of them, or rather, what experience comes to mind as one of your most the successes that you really, really admired, you're really proud of?
I think each has successes, but the most notable was my role in Lagos. And the reason for that, we really wanted to, we were in that position when we really wanted to build a business that is sustainable. And we really had very aggressive expansion targets. And one of the things that we knew would be very critical in ensuring our success was really ensuring that we get very smart young people to run our business, which is exactly what we did. I remember we went through a very serious talent scouting exercise, because we were very particular, like we need people that within 2 months, 3 months, these people, we can leave them with the store and they can run the business on their own as we move on to do other things. Because our job was not really to sit in a space and run a store. Our job was to set it up, put in people, train people, ensure that they are really good, and set structures for them. And then boom, we just move on to another location. That was the thing. So I would say we really achieved massive success in that. And the other thing now was so lucky was, we did a lot of job. And I'm really thankful for the team that I worked with. We had amazing team, because the things we were able to pull off, even our directors couldn't believe. 19 outlets to around 71 outlets within 2 years. To us, that was massive because there was a lot of work that was being involved in that. So I think those were the main achievements that I would say that I would pick, and yeah, great work there.
Awesome. And conversely, what would you say was your most humbling experience?
Oh yeah, the most humbling experience is having to leave Lagos earlier than I thought.
So what happened? What is Lagos story?
I was sad. I didn't know what to do. And yeah, so Lagos, what happened is that we had currency problems. Really serious currency problems in 2015, 2016. So it became very hard for William to earn and send money home. I had my family here in Nairobi. I brought them to Lagos just to, to try to see how it works, because there was no way of sending money from Nigeria to Kenya. In fact, from Kenya to any other parts of the world, because there was dollar scarcity and all that. The banks didn't have dollars. Western Union didn't have dollars. You couldn't use them to send any money. So we were kind of stuck. And when I talked to my boss, he sympathized. He knew the situation, but really all he could do is just sympathize and say, okay, let's just hope this thing just goes away soon. Because I mean, that's how it was at that particular period of time. So it was a very stressful moment. And, you lose money because the local currency has crashed. It's lost value against dollar and all those kind of things. So it was a very hard moment for me. I love the business. I love the market, the very vibrant market in Lagos. Very great people. I think more hospitable than Kenyans by like 10 times.
Okay. Oh, that's quite a compliment.
So I loved everything. I loved their culture. I loved their parties. I loved their food. The way you just get into an environment and like, I think I love these people actually, and you love the way they do their things. But yeah, so I think that part is really what made me sad that, despite the fact that we really had good plans to grow the business, and it was really a very unique model that we wanted to experiment in Nigeria and possibly replicate in other markets in Africa. And then here you are, William, you have to leave. You have to leave the market early because of all the challenges that you're having, personal challenges. And the boss really wants to keep you and is asking. I remember one time, I don't know, somebody had put like a comment on LinkedIn, like saying that something like, we are looking we are looking for executives. Please put your name and the job that you're looking for. And they just commented that, like a by the way, And then the boss now, because of internet things, he saw it and he was like, he called me one morning in the office and he told me, I saw your comment. What is it all about? Are you planning to leave? Tell me the truth. so
found out.
Yeah, so I mean, I felt that to me, I didn't feel like I really needed to move. And my boss was a bit frustrated that, you have to leave at this time when we really are looking forward to build the business and also even getting investors to give us money. I think that was the most painful, humbling moment for me overall.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah. So, William, looking at your story, so you've been an entrepreneur twice, yeah, and it didn't work out. And you've had roles like the one in Nigeria that you loved, but you weren't able to stay as long as you'd thought. How do you bounce back from that disappointment?
That's really a good question. Do I have an answer? I think it's just because it's something that is inside. I think that's why people talk about entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's just a spirit that is inside of you. But also, I think once you've been with startups and you've gone through the that's that path, and you picked your lessons, somehow you get accustomed to it. And that's why you realize that sometimes somebody who has worked in a corporate environment, let's say, for example, which corporate can I give here? Because I'm afraid that we might have audience from, let's say, Safaricom, for example. If you worked with the Safaricom, for example, where things are set up, the environment is set up, the policies are set up. So there are those organizations where kind of there is a book. So you come and you are told that we've done all the donkey work, so you is just to do this, all right? So if you're moving from that environment and you're coming to a startup environment where you have to be an accountant, you have to be, you have to wake up early in the morning. For example, if you are running your own business, you have to be in the office, you have to clean, you have to be there over the weekend and take the mop and clean the place. You have to be a customer service assistant. You have to be the debt collector. So you are kind of everything, you know, when you're in that space. So you realize that it becomes a bit hard. But the moment you've gone through that process, you've been in the startup environment and you've done those things. See, there are things that you've done within the startup that even myself, I really don't believe that I did those things. Like I remember one very spectacular case when I was working with Copia. We were delivering some goods to one of our clients in Makuyu, which is in Muranga, right? So when I got there, because we didn't have any vehicle, so, and it's only us, there's no one else you can tell, oh, take this merchandise, take to the client. So I remember I took 2 big bags with my 2 hands, boarded a matatu in town, all the way to Muranga, to Makuyu. And then when I got there, I was really tired because, you know, it was a long journey. I'm carrying loads of things. And, you know, I'm sweaty, I'm dusty. And then our agent there, called Peter, told me, William, I
remember that from this book. This is William's book, by the way. Yeah,
I still remember that statement, but I could see where he was saying, like, he sees this guy coming up and he's so loaded, he's carrying merchandise on this hand and this hand.
And you're called manager.
And I'm a manager, they're like, hi, William, so those are the things that really you go through, hard things. So the moment you go through that, sometimes really you don't feel it. And sometimes failing and bouncing back becomes like, it's an ordinary thing the moment you're getting used to it. And also even that understanding that, you know what, if I fail, it does not mean that I'm the first one to do that or I'm the last one. So many people, I mean, if you're a good reader and you're a good learner, you realize there's so many people who have done, even Bill Gates, if you read about his story, you realize that he's failed in many businesses. If you read about Branson, for example, I mean, he's failed spectacularly before he finally found his star. So if you realize that, then you realize that if I fail, then I have to wake up again and do the damn thing one more time.
Yeah. It's not really, I think we get paralyzed by the thought of how am I going to face people? How am I going to face the world? Because maybe we've painted this. I think also, I don't know if this is true for you as well, William. People have this idea of entrepreneurship like it's you know, those funded companies, those ones we see on the news. So we think about like, oh, so I'll just be doing PR stints with media and I'll be talking about my team of, you know, we are expanding. We are now hiring another 500 people, rapidly expanding in Africa or something. And so we also feel the pressure, and I'm not saying everyone starts, of course, at that level, but I feel sometimes that people come into entrepreneurship with that pressure. Like they now have to keep up these appearances, especially if they, you know, they came from a really well-known company or a really, you know, good job. So you're like, I have to maintain. And then when it doesn't work, you feel like it's a personal thing. It's not the business that's failed. It's me. I'm the one who's failed. And it's so hard for people to just separate themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think if you take time really to learn how businesses, and good entrepreneurs, they always learn how businesses have become. There's always a story that comes before the limelight. There's always that story, and that story is never told. Because before you get investors' money, you must have put some work. All right. So that work is not easy. You have to, before you get all those monies to do the PR and media and stuff and recruit, the investors, before they give you that money, they must have seen that like you've put some energy into it and you've gained some traction. All right. So that story, before you get money going backwards, I think most people really don't get that story. They don't really get to hear that story. And maybe people are not even interested in hearing that story. That story is very important because it just fortifies you. It gives you that fortitude to know that, I'm not alone. All right. I'm not the only one who has gone through this. All right. So unless you understand that, for example, Equity Bank started in Kagema in a dusty town as a housing society. You might see all the glamour up there, but really you don't know the root. The moment you get the root, and that's usually the cycle for most organizations. They have, there's always that guy who started something in a garage. I listened to Vusi Tembekwaya. I don't know whether you know him. He's a South African entrepreneur and investor and speaker. And he was saying that when he was starting one of his businesses, he had a car on loan. And at some point, the bank had to repossess the car. All right. And he had to park the car at the basement where the office was and sleep inside the car all night.
Yeah, and his wife was bringing him food. I was like, wow, this man.
Yes, because if he goes at home, those guys, the bank agents, they know where home is and they will come and repossess it, Yeah. So if you understand that, you know that really it's a normal thing. You have to go through that cycle before all those other things comes along the way. And even smart entrepreneurs, really, they don't go after those limelights, even when things have showed up, because usually you have a business to run, right? Yeah. There are so many entrepreneurs who spend time on media and talking about this and about that, and you have a small business. Just go back and run your business, all right? Spend more time doing your thing. I remember when I was in Lagos, my boss, I know he was a very smart guy, and I knew there was there was a conference which normally happens like annually. It's called Retail Conference Africa, which was happening in South Africa. And I told him, I just walked into his office and I told him, there's this conference that is coming up at this date. Why don't you register your name as one of the keynote speakers? Because in my mind, I thought like this guy, if he ever steps there, he's very brilliant. He'll have good things to share. Yeah. And you know what he told me? He asked me, William, are you sure really those are the things you should even be thinking about? We have a business to run, Those are for the business. Those are things for the chairman who have made it in their business, not us. As we have more priority things to focus on. So I think in the moment you understand that story at the start, then you really be in a good position to really be sober when you are in that space yourself. Unless you're not really a good learner, because as an entrepreneur, I expect like people are really good learners and you're reading how people have done these things, because there's a lot of information out there. So when you get that kind of information, you're able to know that, I'm not the only guy who has ever gone through this. There are a ton of others who have gone probably more worse situations.
Absolutely. Yes. And I really like that. And, it reminds me of the saying, like focus on the process, like not the outcomes. And actually the story that William has told is in his book. So it's called The Big Leap. So we're just talking about these things. They're weaving themselves into the conversation. Okay. Yeah, but there's so many other like wonderful stories there. And I remember in that section, you said that what you learned from him was keep your head down, like just focus on the process. And the results will show. If you follow proper due process, the results will show. Okay, so I really like that. And let's talk about now being an expatriate. Yeah, a lot of us would want to have jobs outside the country. And Seychelles, why not? It's beautiful. So I think one of the struggles is, how does someone even find these jobs? Number one. And then people also really struggle with, because most of the people on the call have young families and etc. So it's like, how do I transition my family during those times? What do I need to put in place? What are some of the things you can share in that regard?
Okay, awesome. I think we can look at it by like case by case. But really, if there's somebody with a family, then you have, and probably you have a partner. I think the first thing is really to agree between the two of you, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a husband and wife, or spouses, you really need to agree among yourself on how this thing is going. Usually, there's something you have to lose to gain whatever it is that you have to gain. So
Yeah.
every time you move out of your country, there's something you lose. Even when I was a single guy, when I was going to the Seychelles, because I was a single man, of course, I felt like I lost my freedom. I lost the touch with my family. There's always something that you lose. So it becomes a little harder if you have a family and you have to figure out, like, where are we? All right. Is it a young family that you can relocate, like the way I did for Lagos? Is it like grown-up guys, girls and boys? Sorry. That you have to change education, probably system, because usually when you move to a new country, they have their own education system, and you have to figure out how to fit in. So those are the things that probably you need to think about, and just doing research, you're able to understand that. Then once you know that this job is really very important to me, probably it's because you are looking at it as an opportunity to grow, or you're looking at it in terms of, probably getting you more money, which is also something that we consider. And you feel like, I need to take this, is just to see what compromises do you need to make. All right. So you can decide to maintain your people back home. If you feel like moving them in will be more harder, but then probably negotiate with your employer so that you have more regular flights, either them coming or you going, so that is within your contract. So you can negotiate that in advance, so that, those regular flights back forth, they don't eat into your salary, so that is already secured in the contract, if that works for you. All right. But also understand how things are on the other country. I think one of the things that really I didn't take time to understand was really doing research about some countries. So for example, a very typical example was when I was moving in Nigeria, I really didn't know that Nigeria, you have to like put on your generator every single evening. All right. Because power is like, it's never there. Right. So I was like, how did I miss those basic details? Like in Lagos, you have to go and get your fuel, put on your generator every single evening for most of days, right? So those are the things that kind of disturbed me at the start, which tells me that you need to do your research. Just know the country where you're going, how is it, what are the hardships there, what are the easy things. If I move my family, how is, usually for most people who have families, is about education for kids. It's never much about anything else. So that transition, like you're moving your kids to a foreign country, new education system, and so on and so forth. Usually that is the most thing that disturbs most people. Yeah. So once you figure that out, then you are able to kind of see, is it a good opportunity for me? Is it not a good opportunity for me? And then you agree with your spouse. But if you're a young man, like I was back in the days, get into a plane, go experience.
Take advantage of it.
Take advantage of that. Go experience. It goes a long way, even in opening your understanding on how other people do things, how other systems in other countries works, and so on and so forth. There's a whole learning that goes into that. So if there are no encumbrances or those restrictions around your life or your family, I would say really, you are 20-something, get into a plane, don't bother a lot, go experience, come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And where would people get these jobs? What would you advise people who are interested in looking for these jobs?
So right now, the jobs we have, so the jobs are made, it has become much easier for people to really get those jobs online, whether it's on LinkedIn. Usually on LinkedIn, you get them for those people who are on LinkedIn, or if there are job boards very specific to countries that you're targeting, maybe, let's say, for example, you want to go to Nigeria, all right? Or you want to go to Angola or DRC. If you are very specific on that, you can always check on the job boards that are very specific to those countries. You know, like in Kenya, we have, I don't know what, Brighter Monday and which other job boards do we have around here? Yeah, those country-specific job boards where they normally post their jobs. You can always check on that and see. And usually, just checking whether, you know, they're very open also to take expatriates, because some roles really doesn't require like people get in because expatriates also are expensive, because the housing, they provide you the housing and flights and all those kind of things. So looking at that, you can be able to know that, yes, I can target particular sites where they normally post jobs, and then you know, you communicate. But also, like in my case, you know, those connections that you normally have with recruiters, if you've gone through the hands of recruiting agencies, because they have a lot of connectedness, across countries. So if you have that, you can always maintain those relationships. So for example, if you've gone for a job interview, just keep those conversations open, going on LinkedIn, on email. Just keep talking to those people. In fact, keep updating them on how things are going. So like in my case, if a recruiter gets me a job, I always let them know that when I leave a job, I tell them, oh, you see that job you got me, I've left. Please, is there something else? Or when there's something else, let me know. So when you keep those links open, you realize that you're likely to get those opportunities. LinkedIn, it's made things a lot easier. It's, you know, it's connected across. I think that's also one big source I would recommend for people to keep checking opportunities. Like I see opportunities everywhere, from Malawi to DRC to Egypt. I see them all on LinkedIn. So if I feel like, oh, this one I'm more suitable, then I can decide to apply. If I feel that is the country probably I want to target for my next job.
Yeah. All right. And how do you prepare your family?
For when you're moving out? The family just, you know, having a conversation. So there are two types of families. So if you have a nuclear family, where you have kids and the spouse, I think it's just having those conversations. Usually, when you have that conversation, there's that openness, you know, there's that openness where you are weighing. You're seeing, like, if I move, what do I lose and what do I gain? You know, what are the benefits and what are the risks, or, you know, what are the opportunities, and so on and so forth. You can always reason together and agree. All right. So that's the best approach. And that's, I mean, I discuss with my wife all these things, what opportunities that are there, and if I move, what are the consequences? All right. What are the consequences? And especially if you're moving from a stable job, again, that's something else you need to discuss, because whenever you're moving from a job to job, there's always a risk. If you've worked with another organization, your current employer, for some years, and you've built your name, your reputation, your performance is known, and so on and so forth, your relationship is intact there. If you're moving to another organization, that's usually a whole risk. If you're moving to another country, the risk probably is some levels higher, because there's always a chance that maybe you might lose your job within the probation period or something like that. So those are the risks that you always need to discuss. If you want to discuss with your parents, which is now the other kind of family, it also depends on the relationship that you have with your parents. Usually, it's always good that you have kind of the idea of what you want. So what you're going is to sell them an idea and see what they think. All right. And then not to tell them, like, you know, I have this opportunity, but really I'm not sure whether to go or not to go. So just let them know that, okay, I've looked at this and I feel like this is what I want. All right. And then they'll give you their views. Some of these parents are knowledgeable and they know what is happening in other countries. And they can tell you, they can advise you on why or why not, you know. And if you feel strongly that you need to move, then you can also convince them, because, I mean, you can sell to them, you can let them know that, oh, if things doesn't work, I will come back, or, you know, it builds my career profile, or it gives me more connections, you know, those kind of things. You can always discuss with them. It's probably for for most people, I think it's a lot harder when you have your smaller family, your spouse and kids. I think that's where you need more detailed conversation on how things will pan out. And also, I mean, when you're having that conversation, also is about asking questions and asking what ifs. What happens if this doesn't go like this? What happens if that does? And kind of you have a backup plan on how you are going to manage those risks, which might potentially come up. And you see now also that conversation helps you figure out whether do you need to move together, which I see some people do that, or do you need to, you know, kind of these guys have left behind and you go and hustle, such things. And, you know, how do you negotiate with your employer so that you get those benefits that enables you to keep reconnecting with your family more frequently? Those kind of things you need to be very open about them and just hear what the other person is saying before you get into trouble.
Yeah, I totally get you. I think weighing the risks for anything is important.
Yes.
So another one, because you've also taken a risk to enter into a startup like Copia or Solar Kiosk. So just hypothetically, some people really want the experience. They've worked in very large, maybe multinationals and etc. And a really good, opportunity has opened up maybe at a startup. And maybe they're even willing to match everything that your employer currently gives you and more. But you're wondering, how do you assess that this is not too much of a risk for me career-wise, because we want to secure our families as well, right? So how would you look at it?
Okay, so interesting, because I've had so many people come to me asking me the same question. Somebody wants to move to this organization, and kind of she's asking me how do I look at that?
Yeah.
So I mean, the first question is what motivates you to move from a stable, structured organization to a startup? All right, I don't know. Maybe you have your own reasons, but I know startups offers advantages. Of course, established organizations also have their own advantages. But one of the advantages I've found with startups is that they're more flexible. So you can grow quickly. In fact, I've realized that I can earn more in a startup than I would earn in a corporate organization.
You know, that's so true, right?
It's so true.
People don't know.
People don't know. Like structured organization, big companies, they have really rigid salary bands that are there. They've set up and that's it. But when you come to startups, like it's very fluid. Like you can, and then it's not so bureaucratic. Like I can go to my boss and say, you see what, I think you added me more responsibilities. I need, I raise, and because now maybe he needs to talk to one or two more people, and then a deal is done. It becomes a lot easier than in a structured organization. So those kind of things. The risk that you're moving into is that most startups, they are either like proper startups, they've just started, they are on that startup mode, or they are growth stage companies. All right. And in most cases, these organizations will not make money until maybe after 5-7 years. They will not make money. And what investors are doing is that they're giving you money with the hope that you guys will start making money. I've seen startups where investors can give you a bit of a runway to make money, but you don't make money and they pull out.
yeah, that's true.
That's one of the risks. To see you guys. That's a risk. All right. Or if you're moving in an NGO that is donor funded and non-donor dependent, you really need to ask questions like, where do you get your money? How is your sustainability? You really have to ask those questions, because I've seen, there's a friend of mine who moved. In fact, she called me and she asked me, and I told her, first look at the structure of the organization. Is it a one-man organization? Does it have co-founders? Does it have, how is the revenue strategy? Because that really gives you a lot of kind of ideas on how you want to move. And who owns the organization, you know? Is it a family business? So personally, I have my own fears on family businesses, and that's really personal, you know? So how is it structured? Is it a one-man show? Does it have co-founders? And usually the risk is less if it has co-founders from different geographies. Like it has a Brit, it has a Kenyan, and it has a guy from US. Usually it's a lot less riskier that way than if you hear it's three Kenyan co-founders. It's William and Beryle and Francis, you know. So it's less risky. So you have to look at those kind of things, those details, because that's the truth. The organization sometimes it receives some funding, but then the way investors do their funding thing is that I'll give you the first tranche, then spend that, give us these results before you get the next round of money, you know.
So even when they announce 100 million in funding, does not mean the company has received 100 million.
Exactly. They don't receive that money. They receive a fraction of that money. And you know, for them, it's just how they manage their risk, you know. They'll give you a small fraction of that money, and then they'll give you targets based on that. They'll tell you, okay, for this one, you need to move up to that level. And then once they are satisfied, like, oh, these guys are moving in the right direction, they'll release some more money like that. But I've seen also instances where investors just pull off and they're not willing to fund you anymore, and the whole building comes collapsing, and people lose their jobs and all that. So that's a risk. That's a risk that you have to be careful about. I've had so many people come to me, and I always tell them, look at the funding structure. Where are they getting their money? All right. Do they have external sources of money, or it's a founder who is funding from his pocket? Because the pocket can move from here to there. It can't go too far, all right? So that you know that even though they're paying me a lot more, then it is very clear in your mind that, yes, I'm earning more, but, you know, it might be a bit short, you know. I might go for 1 year and then I don't have a job again. So would you compare that more vis-a-vis whatever you are earning in a more stable organization, then make your math and decide.
Absolutely. And I think just general good practice, even in any organization, is to really just do a thorough background check of this organization. You know, even who are their customers. It's not uncommon for people to exaggerate some of their results, also not just for the funders, but to help them attract candidates, the kind of candidates that they're looking for. It's not, so it's good to do your background. It's good to find out about their customers, find out about the product, find out about, you know, what is it they're working on, you know, what you know, like, do you even believe in that roadmap they're talking about? You know, things like this are so important. So no, go ahead.
Yeah, and also because we are very interconnected, also you can, if you really want more information about an organization, you can always check on LinkedIn, maybe past people that has worked with that organization, or people who are working with that organization currently. Check with them and tell them, hey, how are things there? You always find people who are honest, and they'll tell you, here, things aren't really good.
Yeah, always look. Past employees are awesome.
Yes.
You know, they have nothing to lose. They no longer work there. They are perfectly happy to share the details now with someone who's interested. So it's good to ask.
100%.
Okay. So actually, Mubi is telling me that she has found your book and purchased a copy.
Okay, great. Yeah. Oh, on
Thank
Kindle.
You, Mubi.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Mubi. I appreciate that.
On Kindle. All right. And so also the guys on YouTube, please share your questions or your comments as well. And we are just about to get into the Q&A so that we can make sure that we've covered whatever it is that you guys also want to ask. Okay. So aside from now, that's due diligence in business. How do you make sure you've done that due diligence? In career, how do you make sure you've done that due diligence in business? What are some practical steps? So one of the questions we got, actually, maybe let me just ask the question. I've been thinking of starting my business for a really long time. It's a great idea, good market, etc. I would need to resign to run this business. It's not the kind of business you can side hustle.
Okay.
I'm scared I could lose it all. So what are my options?
Okay.
What would you tell someone like that? Yeah, because sorry, William. William's book is actually really, I mean, there's a lot of value here for people who are interested in entrepreneurship, and you have a lot of business questions, what you need to do, how you need to think about it. So we're just going through a snippet today, but yeah, purchase the book. It's called The Big Leap. Yeah, William will put in the contact details inside the chat.
That's
yeah.
Fine.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. That's quite an interesting question, because usually the very first option is to do strandling. We call it strandling, where you are here and you're there. So you have your day job, but then you're testing your hustle to see whether it works. We are not saying that you're really kind of doing two jobs or anything like that. You're just testing to see whether it works, all right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it doesn't work. So now from the person who has asked the question, so that first option is cancelled, like you have to be there, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, quite interesting. So if you have to be there, then you have to figure out how you are going to keep yourself going for a number of months. Usually from the experience I've had doing my own businesses, I've seen I start getting money the 7th month. So I always say that unless it really is a very complicated business that you have to go through the product development, and it's a long cycle to do the product development. But if it's a business where you have the product already figured out, or a service, and it's ready to go to the market, which is actually what I would advise. So if it's the product that really will cover a long distance before it's ready, it's market ready, I would say that do that before you jump out of the job. All right.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And then that just makes it, shortens the time that you have to move from point A to point B, where you have to start earning revenue, some income to take care of yourself. So that is the first part. So ensure that that part is covered, so that by the time you're stepping out of your job, then you already have a product that you are saying, I want to take this product to the market. And then once you do that, then you need to have your finances to take you going, to cover you for like 7, even 1 year if possible. All right. And that is absolutely very important. Most people underestimate that. And I mean, I've been a victim of an instance where, I start a business, I don't have enough money, or I just underestimated the runway before I start making revenue, and then I just get myself burnt out. So the moment you figure out that piece, and I don't know whether we lost. I think we lost Beryle, but we continue. So the moment you figure out that piece, then you need to ensure that you're covered. And especially those people who have families. If you have a family, just know that you have people who are looking. So you have kids like myself who are looking for school fees, and if you have to pay rent and other things, then you have to figure out how you want to take care of that. So really, you have to set a budget for that for a number of months. If possible, do it a minimum of 7 months, because it can take that long before you can actually get a paycheck from your client. So you have to think like, what is my business financial needs, and what is my personal financial needs, and just have that covered up. Don't move before you figure that out, because really you suffer. There's no way you are going to say, okay, you kids stay at home because I don't have school fees. Or if you are paying rent to the landlord, you say, okay, landlord, you see what, I'm doing some business, please wait for me. Then when I make money, I come back and pay you. You are not going to have that conversation. And if you are going to have that conversation, it's not for long. So you have to figure out that piece, really very important. And then once you have that, then you have to look at your life. How do you live your life? Are there things that you need to trim down so that your cost comes down? I mean, your personal life, or those kind of things. And an example I can give is one time I was leaving the business. I was leaving the employment, and we had to pay our apartment rent for a whole year just to cover that. All right. But then we had also a challenge because the apartment we were staying was a bit expensive. And my good wife told me, you see all this money we can pay longer period of time before, we get to that level where we're earning money. But then I was very convinced that within that particular period of time, we would start earning money. But I was really wrong because it took a longer period of time before we started seeing money. Because on the other side, we had employees that we have to pay salaries. We have office rent that we have to do that. Then I think those are the things that you need to figure out. If there are things that are not really essential in your life that you want to trim down, just make them bare minimum. Just be a bit mindful of how you are spending money, because really you don't have money coming in, then that's really very important. And now lastly, I think now things have become much easier because people can work offline. No, it's not offline. People can work virtually. It's not like in the past when you had to get an office. So right now you can set up your office at home, and you can tell your client, you know what, I work remotely. And really no one really cares about that, all right? So the moment you figure that out, I think that really will help a lot. You start at the bottom, manage your finances very prudently. Don't go hire a big office, really. I think that's one of the mistakes that most people, yeah, very welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, we proceeded without you.
No, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, if you're doing that, then you need to manage your budgets. You have to avoid getting into those big offices if you really want to rent an office. Those blue glass buildings with escalators, beautiful views. You need to avoid those because they're expensive. They eat your money in no time, and you'll be left like without anything. So the moment you manage your money like that, and you have some cushion to keep you going, and you manage that phase of product development so that you're not stepping out to go and figure out how to build a product, then you could be in a good, you considerably reduce your risk. And also don't be in a rush to hire people. I mean, always ask questions, is this necessary? For me, I always say, if you can't, I'm very hesitant like in hiring people. Like I have to ask myself questions every single day for many days before I convince myself like I need to add more person into the business. Because the moment you add people, the more burden you add to people, because those people, they'll need internet, they'll need computer, they'll need this, they'll need that, they'll need salary, all right? So how are you going to pay them if you're not making any money, all right? You're going to pay them from your pocket. The more you pay many things from your pocket, the more you are depleting your money. And the more you are getting to that zone where there's and let me tell you, there's no bad space to be like you've ran out of money, and the business is not generating money. Your people are waiting for you to pay school fees and rent. There is no frustrating space like that space. You really don't want to get into that space. So you really need to be a bit very conscious of that before you get into trouble. Yeah.
Awesome. So before I was rudely interrupted by my machine, I remembered this in regards to your answer. I don't know if you told the story of Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I haven't told the story of Brian.
No, you hadn't. Okay, so let me read it. Yeah. Is that? So you talk about, this is actually a story from Kevin Otiende. Yeah, so he talks about a friend of his called Brian, he decides he wants to quit his job. Yes. So he says Brian quit his job at a very big organization 3 months ago to try consultancy. He wasn't pushed, he just thought it was time to jump. In the 3 months, he had to move from a house of 120,000 to 25,000, sold his car and changed his lifestyle completely. We spoke last week and he's literally suffering. His former employer won't take him back. When I questioned him before he quit, he said, if you're fine, I'll be fine. So Kevin is an entrepreneur. He was like, if Kevin can do it, for sure I can also do it, right? It doesn't always work that way. He quit to rival his former boss, not because he had any new products to solve an identifiable market problem. What people see in entrepreneurs is only the tiny good side. Below the surface is the delayed payments, insults, depression, theft, and unimaginable sweat. It looks cute on the outside, but like Jon Snow was told, you know nothing, do not quit for fun. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And then just below that, you also speak about your own story. Yeah. And going back to, maybe tell us a little bit about that. So going into your own, coming from your own business, and then now going to back to your former employer. Yeah.
Yes.
And what that was like. Yeah. So I think I would like people to understand the good side. Yes, there's the benefit, but then there's also the risk of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So the story behind what is in my book is that time when I was working with Copia. You know, I left Copia to start a business. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we ran for a number of months without a single coin. We hadn't received we ran like for like 7 months actually. And then when we were on a dry patch, I decided to go back to my boss. He's a very good gentleman. He invited me for coffee. We sat back and we talked. And then he told me, you see what, because I had communicated your decision to resign, and you know, many months have moved on, and we've kind of filled up the positions, and we've kind of redirected our capacity in terms of workforce. There's no way we are going to take you up. And he told me, even if I go to the chairman and I tell her that you want to come back, she'll think like I'm crazy, because these things you settled them up. So I wish you well. I know something is coming your way very soon. I'm very sorry for what you're going through. I've never forgotten that day, by the way. It was because really I was beaten on the other side, and I'm coming now. I'm saying, you know what? I just go back to my boss. You know, like the prodigal son who decided, like, now it's time to go back to my father. So and then you go, and then you kind of get and as I mean, I could see his point from where he sat, because I mean, it wasn't just easy for you to go and come back. So back to the story of Brian. I think most people leave their hustles. I love the question that has been asked, because somebody is saying that it's something that you can see the market and so on and so forth, and you know, so it means that it's an idea well thought about. But if you're leaving because your boss, you want to rival your boss, because you think, like, you know, there are people who leave because they feel like, you know, I'm the one who generates revenue for this organization. You know, those salespeople who kind of are doing the sales thing and all that, and they feel like, you know, if I leave this organization, this company will not get sales anymore, and I can go out there and do the same thing and earn. It really doesn't work that way most of the time. Why? Because the reason why you're leaving this organization is not a genuine reason. A business always exists to solve a problem, and whenever you're thinking about stepping out to go and start a business, you have to think like, what problem am I going to solve? All right.
Absolutely.
And then to solve that problem, what kind of product do I need to build, or what kind of service do I need to offer? All right. And will customers like that service, or will customers like that? Because sometimes you can build a product and customers doesn't like them, despite the fact that they have a pain. All right. And I mean, just asking, will customers be able to pay for it? I mean, will I be able to price it in a way that people have a need, but also they're able to pay for it? They have money to pay for it. So the moment you haven't gone through those thought processes, just to think through your business, and you're just stepping out because maybe you're frustrated in your job, or you want to rival your boss, or you feel like you can just go out and replicate what you're doing in your within your contract with your employer, then somehow you end up in your problem. Like in Brian's case, you see now, it was a guy living up there, and he just left the organization. And how do you sustain those expenses? I mean, there's no way, even if you're going to start selling vegetables, there's no way you are going to start earning money like immediately. There's always that process. There's always that lead time that you have to cover before you can actually start generating money for your company. So those are the things actually I was talking about earlier, that you need to have a number of months to cover your personal expenses and also the expenses of the business before your business can generate money. And if you're stepping out and you think like you're living the life out there, like Brian, you are paying a house which you are paying more than 100,000 an apartment, you can't afford to live that kind of life. You have really to trim down, calm down to that space that helps you save money. If you're going for nyama choma in Naivasha every weekend, you have to say no to that. If every weekend you're taking your family to Nakuru for whatever, to have nice time, you really have to cut those things, because if you continue maintaining those things that have been funded by your paycheck, and now the paycheck is gone, even if you have how much money in your account as savings, it will just be a matter of few months, and those savings will disappear like you never believe.
Yeah, we never believe.
Yes.
It's so surprising how expensive our lifestyles are. We don't really count the cost, because there's the basics, and then there's things that you're just used to doing, and you don't even realize, maybe you're used to going to Java for your lunch every 3 days in a week, and dining at so and so, so these types of things, they really add up. And so you also have to count the cost, because it's something you've now gotten used to doing. Is it something you want to really give up for a business, given that the risks are inherent in it? I think those are really good points. Thank you so much for those. We have another question here. When I discuss my business idea with my wife, she doesn't think it will take off because it's a luxury item. The market research I've done confirms there's a need for this good, but she thinks we should stick to businesses that serve ordinary citizens. What would you advise?
Okay, that's really a good question. And also it's good, like, that conversation is happening between two people. So, so the first question is that, have you done your market research? Do you have numbers to prove that? Are you able to test that at a smaller scale, which is very important, which most people miss? Before you jump in your own body into it, have you really tested it? Have you talked even to customers? I always like the idea where you talk to customers, your prospective customers. If it's a product, like, for example, you want to take to, let's say, for example, I have very nice cutlery I want to sell to hotels, and I feel really they are good for big hotels. Before I start importing a container from China or from Dubai, I need to first get a sample and take it to the hotels and talk to hotel managers or restaurant managers and tell them, I have this product. Do you think this will fly? If I sell to you at this price, do you think they'll sell? So the moment you talk to more customers at that scale, they will give you feedback. They'll let you know, we are buying better quality than what you have at a cheaper price. All right. They're always very generous. Customers are very generous with information the moment you talk to them. The mistake we make is to jump in without talking to customers and asking them. So I don't know what kind of luxury products he's talking about, but I would say talk to your customers, get your numbers, get your market, get, like, we call it total servable market, which is kind of so you have the total addressable market, which is kind of like the bigger market, but then you have the servable market, which is kind of the market that you think you can serve, and that could be maybe 1% of the entire market or 5%, depending. So talk to the market, understand what they're saying, get that product that you want to sell. If it's a luxury product, don't pump a lot of your money into that kind of product, and then you realize that there are no customers to buy that product when you've already sunk your money there.
Exactly.
You don't want to go through an experience I went through when I joined the Forever Living, which is an MLM. I
know Forever Living, yeah.
I went there. I was very excited. I had money. I spent around 50,000. I bought their products, mini products. And then I started looking for the market. Like, I looked for the market. Is it that no one buys aloe vera juice, or what is this? And then I said, I think I can also take these things. I started taking them slowly, and they realized they are good things. And then I ate stock, and that was the end of my business. But really, after looking for the market, and there isn't any market, and I've spent like 50,000, which was hard to come by then. So if it's a luxury product, which I guess could be a bit expensive, and the market is narrow, that means the market could be narrow. So it's not. So the wife is talking about the larger market, which is a low risk market, where there are many consumers. So it's about looking at numbers and say, okay, do I have enough numbers? Do I have enough customers to service this market? If I talk to my customers to see what they're thinking about this product, all right?
Yeah.
The more, if you don't have the numbers, just cool down, look for numbers, and then even convince yourself. The reason why I'm saying this, I know the mind of an entrepreneur. We are always excited, and sometimes really we haven't even done enough research. We are all over, because when at the moment you have an idea, a groundbreaking idea, you think like, oh, this is the idea that now is going to turn the market around. People, watu watanitambua, so I'm going to bring this thing into the market. And then the moment you sunk your money into it, you realize that, damn, this thing, no one is buying it, and you've tied your money there. What do? You're already there. So, so that's the thing. Then take that product, smaller piece of it. If you're buying, say, for example, clothing from China, and you're not sure that it will sell, just import a few pieces. Buy 10 units, buy 20 units, the one that doesn't cost you a lot of money. Take that to the market. Let customers tell you, oh, this fashion was there 10 years ago, it's outdated, or the price isn't market friendly, or maybe they will like it or something, So that way it helps you mitigate against losing a lot of money and really getting frustrated. So that's what I would advise the gentleman who is asking that. If he thinks that is really a good market, prove that with numbers, do it at a smaller scale, see how customers react to that before you invest much money into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. And I think what I would also add, coming from my marketing research background, it's that sometimes you get so in love with, like what you're saying, the idea of, I want to be in this luxury market because that's what you first saw and it just made sense and everything was, but maybe you're missing, maybe your wife is right. Maybe you're missing the bigger market and chasing for the more complex, harder, whatever market. And so, look at different, look not just this market, but look at complementary business markets. Yeah. So now from the luxury to maybe this ordinary wananchi market, that's really, really important. And you don't want to have a situation where you're putting in so much into it, and then you find that the lead times to actually selling, because that happens a lot with luxury goods, right, William? They can take so long for you to actually get the sale. Fine, the sale will be big, but you're getting it after 8 months, or you're getting it after, So you have to ask yourself, is that really, do you have the runway to actually wait for money to come in at those short spurts, for the market? Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Another question we have from Murad is it wise to go back to a former employer after things don't work out in a new job or business? Yeah, because now we've heard you've done it. So is it wise to just go back and just say, okay, it didn't work out? And or rather, what would you say? What would you tell people to say if it's wise to do it?
So there are two sides to that question depending on who you are asking. So there's the employer and then there is the employee. Usually most employers, they will not take you back unless really you are very exceptional employee at that time and you left for, like sensible reasons. But then if you are the employee now and you want to go back to the employer, I mean, it all depends, right? If your employer was a good company and they're willing to take you back, I've seen guys who leave and they come back to organizations. The only thing that I've found which would limit you and sometimes whenever I think about it, it always comes to my mind is you now need to settle, because I mean there's no way you are going to be taken back and after some time now you are leaving again. You have to settle for a longer period of time until what you did is forgotten. Kind of there's that something that tells you, there's that voice that tells you, if I leave sooner it will be wrong. So if you really want to, if you really want to get back and stay a little longer and your employer was a good organization and they're willing to take you back, then I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. And you always know, because you've worked with them, you see that they're good people and so on and so forth. You can always go back. There's no problem with that. The only challenge is that you have to ask yourself, if I go back, am I willing to stay longer? Because I mean, it just feels guilty to tell them again after a shorter period of time, like I've gotten an opportunity. It just looks like, you know, you just wanted to, you are abusing their generosity, or, you know, something like that. So those are the things you need to ask yourself. And also, why did you leave in the first place? So that's another thing you need to ask yourself. So if you left for bigger pay because you felt like the organization where you're living was not paying you well, so are you going back now because that problem is solved? So those are the things that you need to ask yourself. Or if you felt like my manager was a good manager, which sometimes people leave because they are not in good terms with their managers, which is okay. Does it mean that that problem now is solved, or you are going back to that problem again? In my case, I would say, if you feel like there is a problem that made you resign and you don't feel like that problem has been solved, so please don't go back. All right. It's better even you hang around out there, a free man, a free woman, looking for other opportunities, and then maybe always opportunities comes, and probably something that you'll be looking for will come your way, than going back to the same situation that made you resign. I mean, it really doesn't make sense, right?
But what if you're really broke?
Yeah, I know. Definitely, yeah. So you have to weigh. You have to weigh and see. Like that time when I was going back, I was really broke. Like I really need, and if the employer will see like you're coming back because you're broke, chances are they'll not accept you back, unless really you're really good at that time and they have space for you. So again, I mean, you just see like what is it that you want? You are broke, yes, but you have a career to nurture. Do you want to go back again? You know, sometimes the work environment matters a lot more than even money. For those people who've been in really bad jobs, they know that sometimes your peace of mind, despite the fact that you're broke, sometimes it really matters a lot. Than a paycheck in an environment where you're not appreciated, or you really don't feel like you belong. Sometimes you just feel like, I just want to be out there looking for something else, but I really don't want to go back there again. So again, you have to look at, yes, I'm broke, but where am I going? Am I going back to the same problem that I was in just because I'm broke? Or should I just try to figure out maybe a few more months and get something else that really makes me happy? So those are the things you need to look about. I mean, it's just trade-off. So you are broke, so you want a paycheck in your pocket. On the other side, now you're going back to an abusive, I don't know whether that's the right word to use. Yeah, you're going back to a job that you never liked.
Unfortunately.
It can be, yeah. Am I going back to the job that I didn't like? So those are two things. So they're not really good things, you know. There are two bad things. It's a choice between two really not very appealing things. So I'm going back to a job that I never liked for some reasons, so that I can keep my paycheck, or should I rather not go there and, you know, just look for something? I'm broke, yes, but you know, I want to take some time to look for something else. So that's a personal decision that you have to make based on every particular case. Yeah.
Okay. And Linda asks, when making a career change, everywhere you turn to, you find the experience in a similar role required. How have you navigated such barriers? Okay. So what Linda is talking about, you know, sometimes you read the job description and then they write experience in, let's say, 5 years experience as a sales director required for this role. Yeah. What do you do to navigate such barriers?
So it's becoming a barrier because you don't have that, isn't it? I guess. That's when it becomes a barrier. So there are different answers to that question. So one, especially for some of us, maybe our viewers who are starting their career, maybe they are the first years after graduating, and you know, every other time when you are going, if you want to shoot higher, you realize that some barriers, like, you know, this number of years, or you must have done this, or you must have had managerial supervisory responsibilities, all those kind of things. So those things, they place barriers. All right. So you really need to demonstrate in a way that, so we always say that you should have at least anywhere between 70 and 80%. You must kind of see whether you qualify for that role before you apply. All right. And always you can tell where does this role, where do they place more more weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
For all those requirements that they've given, where is the weight? So do I really qualify for that? It's not a bad thing if you don't qualify. Because I mean, I always say, if they ask you, like, you must have 5 years experience as a sales director. What if they hired you and you realize that that job is stressful and you can't meet those requirements on the job? Like, you can't execute that job now. You got it, but you can't do it, right? Will it not be very frustrating for you? All right. So in most cases, it might be frustrating for you. But in other areas, what you are supposed to do is just to look at what are the requirements. And if you feel like probably you don't qualify for the 5 years as a sales director, what else do you have that relates to that or that comes close to that? And then you amplify that. Let them see that even if you've not worked as a sales director or something like that, or but you've worked as a sales supervisor, just demonstrate what you've done as a sales supervisor that closely matches or closely comes to that level of a sales director or something like that. All right. So that is kind of bridging that gap, because you are here and they're asking something up to here, and kind of you are trying to see how you can build up based on the experiences that you have. But it's not to say that you should put experiences that you really don't have, or you should aim for something really that you don't have. Sometimes you really can get frustrated if you get through that job and kind of you're not able to deliver on the expectations. So it can be a bit frustrating if you don't have that. So yeah, I think that's that will be what I would think about that.
Yeah. And I think also to add, the reason people say that, if you really think about it, the reason people say that is they are looking to mitigate against the risk of hiring someone who doesn't have experience, because someone who doesn't have experience comes in and they need to learn, and learning is costing the company. So yes. That's what the company is really trying to do. But maybe, Linda, you have assessed, I'm a great fit for this job. I could actually do this job. It's exactly what I do. It's only that in my organization, I'm not the ultimate, authority in that function, but I have been doing this. Maybe you shadow your boss so much, you've been doing this job. So what you could do is you could look, if you're able to, you could look for someone within that organization who can vouch for you. Yeah. Because you need someone who can say credibly, Linda, she does a good job. I am able to say that I have 1, 2, or 3, and that sort of thing. And that's why also networking is so important. Yeah. And staying in touch with your networks and just talking about what you do and things like that. Because then people feel confident, when you're coming to them and you're saying this, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, definitely. Because remember, organizations prefer to hire through referrals anyway, and people sometimes even get paid when they refer to people. Yeah. So it's good to look at that option as well. Yeah. When especially, look, I'm just not this particular thing they're writing must. I just don't have this musts. I just don't make it. Yeah. Then another question is from Mumbi, and I think this will be our last one. If a recruiter or an ATS does not allow a candidate to proceed with the preceding interviews, especially bots that are looking for keywords, in your opinion, is it okay to engage the CEO on LinkedIn? Okay. Did you catch that, or do I need to repeat what I said?
I catch it.
Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah, there are organizations that are using the systems, the auto tracking systems for candidates. So what ATS does is a system that kind of runs through your document, your CV, and looking for keywords to see whether you are the person. And sometimes because the way the CV is, it misses those key things and it throws you out just because not because you're not qualified, but because there were not right words. But you see also, I've seen there are so many organizations also which are opting to go the manual way, just because now candidates are becoming wiser and they're doing what we call staffing. Staffing is you put your CV so many keywords. And then what the system does, it picks you and you're not qualified for the job, unfortunately. And the person who is qualified for the job is thrown out. So there is always those disadvantage. So the answer is, so is it okay to engage the CEO on LinkedIn? Yes, you can engage somebody who is working with that organization. And when you engage this person, it's just to say, I saw this role being advertised in your organization or something like that. Even though the CEO really might not be a recruiting person, I think also it's good to look at somebody who is at the center of that. So you can talk to the CEO, probably could be, involved in that, or maybe it's not. You can refer to somebody you can talk to. But that engage, it's not to say that you are thrown out by ATS or you are afraid that you might be thrown out by ATS, all right? The thing is, you are just engaging and say, okay, there's this role and I feel like I'm qualified. Is there somebody I can send my CV to so that I can have a look? Something like that. Just engage. It doesn't hurt at all to engage people, which is part of networking. And that's why LinkedIn also is it has those features of networking and conversation and so on and so forth. So no one will victimize you just because you reach somebody, to somebody, and you end that conversation. On the contrary, it could work for you because you initiated those conversations, and you can always check the people that might be involved in hiring. In most cases, what I've seen, the CEOs, especially for big organizations, they are not involved in hiring. Sometimes they even don't know those roles are there. Sometimes they don't know. So like, oh, okay, I don't know about that. Yeah. Not because it's just because they're not involved in that process. So always good to reach out to somebody, either a hiring manager or a talent associate or HR manager who can really give you kind of a good direction on what to do that. And also when you're reaching out, it's just to let them know why you are qualified for that role. Sometimes it's always good to capture within that one sentence or two sentences, just to highlight why you feel like this is your role, so that they can see sense and they can go and check your LinkedIn profile. Hopefully your LinkedIn profile also has details, because sometimes people doesn't also have
scanty.
It's scanty, yeah. You can't tell. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's okay to talk to people who matter around that. It doesn't really hurt at all.
Yeah, but what if they're like you and they're part of the C level? Yeah, so the CEO is the ultimate hiring manager. Is it okay then?
To reach out to
the CEO, yeah, like let's say in Mumbi's case, right?
Yes.
Your C level. So you just want to get in there, and maybe the position is CTO. So
okay.
He's the ultimate person who will hire anyway.
See, if it's a role that CEO is really involved in, believe you me, they'll look at that. Believe you me. If it's and I've seen it work in my case a few times, where you send a message and really you get a very good feedback from if that role reports to the CEO or CEO is being involved in that, you'll take keen interest in that role in your profile, just to look at what you're able to do. So 100% I would say yes. If they're involved in hiring, just reach out to them, get their feedback.
Absolutely. And I think two things to note now, maybe from an MD's perspective. So you had mentioned earlier, even at Educate, the biggest thing is culture fit. You really want to hire people who fit within the culture, who's, are going to be able to contribute in that team context that you're creating at Educate. But then also, what are you going to have? What are you going to contribute to this role? Yeah. It's not just about like, here's my CV, but if I come to your organization, this is what I'm coming to do. This is what I see myself doing. Because people are hiring to solve a problem, right? So they want to understand that you can solve that problem. So it's very, have that pitch clear in your mind about what it is that you will say in response to, okay, tell me about yourself then. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And just to mention something around that, usually what I realize, even because I've interviewed so many times, and what I realize when candidates come for interviews is that they really never took time to look at the JD, because usually whenever an advert goes out there, there's a JD which tells you like, what are you coming to do, and so on and so forth. So your job is really to look at that, read it. Like, I know whenever I'm in, I don't know whether I take it more seriously than I should. Whenever I'm invited for the interview, I take like 3 days just doing research, looking at that JD, and kind of having my mind in the right frame and knowing how I would respond to the questions. I'm not really like cramming those 10, I don't know what we call them, 10 frequently asked questions or something like that. But really, I just want to understand the role and how does that role contribute to the overall goals of the organization. So that is one piece that people miss. So when you asked about yourself, so you are talking about things outside of what you're supposed to say, which relates to the role.
So true. So true. I like that. Yeah, context is important. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So William, what do you want to tell us in closing? I know we've talked about so much. I wish we could have gone into so much more detail.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, what do you want to tell us in closing?
Yeah. So what I would say in closing, I know we have a lot of opportunities right now. Because I mean, unlike maybe 15 years ago when we didn't have internet and gadgets and stuff, right now we have a lot of information that will enable us make sound decisions. So whether it's about career, whether it's about business, so we have a lot of information right now that can enable us to do the right thing. So I would say let's make use of the information that we have out there. We have more capabilities to network more than ever before right now. So let's also make use of those tools that enables us to collaborate better with people. And more importantly, for those people who are thinking about going to business, please plan, please do, because we have a big challenge out here. We need people who are job creators. We want people who can pioneer things. We have so many youth out there who are looking for jobs, but you know, we really need to have that courage to step out and do our businesses. All right. And I mean, I'm always available for those people who want to have a conversation around, like, for example, you are always afraid. I know I've talked about fear in my book because I know that's where people always get grounded. Not because they don't have money, not because they don't have ideas, not because they don't have support, but just the fear, like, what will happen if it doesn't work? Or what will happen if I invest 100,000 and it just gets lost? I remember one time we spent so much money and my wife asked me, all that money, I wish you bought me a car, you know? You know, so I mean, you know, those kind of conversations. So I mean, so that fear. So I mean, you just need to get hold of your fears. And now things just became better because you can start your hustle in your house. You can start your office in your house, and you can tell your client, hey, you don't tell the client I'm working from my house. You tell the client, you see, now because of COVID and all these things, we are working remotely. Or our teams are working remotely. Very confidently. No one will ask you where your office is, unlike in the past. You can start your baking in your house. You can start doing whatever it is that you want to do. You can start your shop in your house, whether you want to sell clothes and sell online, deliver, whatever. And that just helps you to start lean so that you don't spend a lot of money upfront and burn yourself. So we are in a good space to let people just step out there and do things. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I'd like to close on my end with something from your book. I think it's an encouragement, especially those who are feeling like, you know, I had a false start and I don't know how exactly I'm going to catch up. Yeah. So this is a story of your friend from the same primary school in your village. You know, I'm going with that one.
Yes, I know.
All right. Yeah. So you say, as I proceeded to join high school, he did not. His family wasn't able to raise money for school fees. So he started rearing chicken. I'm paraphrasing. In the village, we used to have free-range chicken that lay eggs for a few weeks, then incubate. He started with a few and would hatch eggs and then sell the chicken. Then after that, he bought a goat. Then he had several goats. Then he sold and bought a calf. And then he fattened it to a big bull. And when you closed school, you came back to the village and found him very consistently rearing this chicken and goats and now this bull. And then he also used to cook and sell donuts. And you'd find him with a bucket full of donuts at the entrance of a local day primary school, selling to pupils as they came out in the afternoon and evening. Yeah. and I like what you said, as a high school student, I would feel a tinge of shame seeing him selling donuts. Yeah, because the expectation was people should be in school and whatever. And my young mind told me that it was such a lowly practice to engage in this kind of trade. As I was finishing high school, my friend got employment as a shop attendant in Nairobi. And after a while, he found a vacant shop close to where he was employed and took it up and opened his own and came back to the village, sold his bull, and together with his savings from employment, leased that shop. It was at the same time that I was joining university that he opened his first shop in the city. 4 years later, I finished college and was in the streets of Nairobi looking for a job. It is this friend of mine who hosted me and fed me for months as I searched for a job. Yeah. May the good Lord bless this man. Amen. At this time, he had 3 retail shops and 2 fast food outlets and employed 12 people and was putting up his city home. Yeah. The difference that 10 years can make, right?
Yeah, that's the difference. And that's
the difference of time.
Yeah. True story. And one of the questions that was running in my mind was that, did I waste time going to, because I was seeing so many things he was doing. I'm like, did I waste so much time in school, or what happened? But I think that is just a classical example of an entrepreneur who starts very small. I normally call it chicken entrepreneurship, but then consistently grow his trade with the time and just being on top of his game after just like short years. You're up there and you're doing great things.
Yeah.
And I wish, Beryle, as we close, I wish you could have that mentality. In fact, I always ask myself, why am I having so much money, but I'm not able to think simply? If we had that mentality where we can actually think, because one of the biggest problem of going to school is that we complicate our lives. We feel like if I have 50,000, now what can I do with 50,000? And then every day you are thinking about what can I do with 50,000, the more you are eating that 50,000. And after 1 month, that 50,000 is gone. All right. And then there's a guy who has a cart, like another friend of mine selling eggs and sausage. And the guy makes 2,500 every single day. Who is doing better. I mean, so if you can have that mind of simplicity, then I think we can do a lot of things, in my view. If we can drop all these loaded ideas and spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations and stuff, and just reduce a bit of talking, and just we get down in doing things. It doesn't matter how small we start doing, then really we could move far.
Absolutely. Your friend reminds me of someone else I met, and you know what he does? He sells lemons at Markiti. He makes 1.2 million a month in revenue.
What?
He doesn't move from that spot. He does not move from that spot. And he's not the only person selling lemons, so that we can't say, it's because he's the only person. No. He has other competitors. He does not distribute. And I like what you said. It's a simplicity. Sometimes we miss the beauty of the simplicity. And the good ideas go with that, because I think sometimes we think, it can't be that easy. There's no way, William, it can't be that easy.
we are looking for sophisticated things. It's just like your friend who asked the question, like he wants to go and do
luxury,
more high-end luxury things as opposed to cheaper things. Like we have that sophistication, which I think we just need to trim it a little bit and make it doable,
Exactly. Yeah. So William, thank you so much for your time. Again, we're speaking to William. William is the MD of Educate in Rwanda and Kenya, and he's also the author of this book. I hope that my camera is doing it justice. Of course, it's now the other way around. It's called The Big Leap. And I'm going to put in the details in the description box of where you can get it. But if you connect to William on LinkedIn, that's William Mukaria, Mukaria. If you go onto his LinkedIn profile, at the very top, there's a banner that has details on where you can purchase this book. A lot of the things we've talked about, by the way, are examples he's giving. I mean, there's such great stories in this book and such great learnings. I think that you would really enjoy it. For those who are interested in entrepreneurship, this is a really good read. Yes, so William, thank you so much for your time. I think in closing, so of course, people on YouTube can't do this, but those who are on Zoom, we just usually just say thank you and as we close off. So if you can't, just say thank you and then we can end the session. Yeah, feel free to unmute.
Thank you very much, Mukaria.
Thank you, Mumbi. Appreciate.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Esther.
Thank you very much, William. That was a lot of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, William. I've learned a lot. And thank you, Beryle, for organizing this. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Naomi.
And thank you. Thank you all. All right. I guess we are at the tail end, William. So I want to thank you once again. Thank you so much for your time and for being so generous to speak to us on this public holiday. I really appreciate it. Yes, and for all of you who joined us, thank you as well for your time. I don't take it for granted, to have you here on with us. I hope that you learned something. Please share this with your friends and family. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. That's probably the easiest way to know when these things are going live. So we will actually be having another session next week. And that will be with someone who comes from the tech space, a tech entrepreneur, and he's only 25. So you want to come and just hear his story of being a young entrepreneur. You'll love it. He's doing very, very interesting things in the medical space. So join us then. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening and God bless you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Beryle. And bye, everyone.